Hey guys, I'm back. I'm also Sarah. It is very nice to meet you. I make these videos where I pretend like I'm talking to my mom, but instead of my mom, it's you. And instead of my ramblings, it's my ramblings plus research. And today we are talking about something I have already spoken to my mother about. Lucky her, she can just 2 times speed her way through this video. I have been gone for like a hot minute, and I know that's like tragic for the almost 80 of you who are subscribed to me, which is so exciting. I'm so close to 100. Like, that's absurd. I'm getting the itch to dye my hair, which means I can just make a YouTube video instead. It satisfies the same itch. I have been working on and writing a 12-page long script for a video about the Real Housewives. You might be wondering, Sarah, this is not about the Real Housewives. And you're so correct. You're so right. I am trying to get us a new cool setup for that video because I have access to a new cool setup for that video. So just be a little patient on that one. It's done. It's scripted. It'll take forever to film and it'll take forever to edit. So I wanted to give you guys something, and it's something that I've been thinking about for months and months and months. So here it is. I was one of the very, very few people to see Lisa Frankenstein in theater with my mother, which was kind of an awkward experience, but honestly, it was everything. I loved it. It was amazing. I would highly recommend it, except for the fact that it is no longer in theaters, and you had about 4 weeks to actually see it in theaters if that was something you wanted, and it wasn't really advertised anywhere. I saw some YouTube ads where it was Cole Sprouse and Catherine Newton talking about the movie and saying it was going to be so fun. And the issue with that is I have very, very little faith in Cole Sprouse at this point. I know for a lot of people he's largely just redeemed himself with the Brittany Broski interview, but he's still strange. I will never forget his weird Tumblr experiment. I will never forget his weird interviews in the modern day. He's the type of guy to smoke cigs because he thinks it's cool, and he just looks so pathetic while doing it. As much as I'm so anti-nicotine and anti like juuling and stuff, some people really do look cool when they smoke a cig, but Cole Sprouse is not one of those people. But alas, I was wrong, and it was an excellent Cole Sprouse movie. I mean, it's not very hard to be an excellent Cole Sprouse movie. He's got, what, the Zack and Cody movie, and then Riverdale, and then 5 Feet Apart? I hate those movies where they just have the kids be sick. Why was that a trend? Oh, back on topic. Lisa Frankenstein was shockingly good. No pun intended, shockingly good. And as I was walking out of the theater with my mother, I had one thought in my mind. Lisa Frankenstein is going to be what the Rocky Horror Picture Show is today. I mean, Rocky Horror is obviously going to be a part of queer iconography for the rest of forever, but eventually I think we need something a little newer, and I think Lisa Frankenstein is perfect for that, and I think it didn't know that when it was being made, which I think is even better. But before I get into any specifics about why I think this is true, I am, of course, as usual, going to be doing my makeup, and Lisa Frankenstein has provided me a perfect opportunity to do this look. It is iconic, it's legendary, and I haven't done a good red lip since sophomore year of college, so this should be fun! Okay, without further ado, let's get into why Lisa Frankenstein will be the new Rocky Horror. If you are cis and straight, I think this might just go over your head, and I don't know how many cis straight people really watch me, but I'll be nice and explain. It is a 1975 film starring Tim Curry and Susan Sarandon and other people. IMDb summarizes it as a newly engaged couple have a breakdown in an isolated area and must seek shelter at the bizarre residence of Dr. Frank N. Furter. I feel like that's a pretty good description. I would just add, and hijinks ensue, because that's really the whole movie. Very queer hijinks, very sexually explicit hijinks, lots of hijinks. Rocky Horror's release in 1975 is probably the least important part of Rocky Horror history. Upon release, it was pretty much panned. I thought it was not a commercial success, but it did make like $100 million, so maybe I was wrong. But also, I just wasn't there in 1975, so what do I know? I couldn't tell you for sure why it was panned. It is definitely not a very good movie, I would say. Also, the fact that it was so outrageously queer and in 1975 couldn't have helped that much either. I know we were in like a sexual liberation era and the 70s was like, ooh, but I don't know if that reached as far as Rocky Horror levels.
The story is strange.
That's all you really need to know plot-wise about Rocky Horror, because the most important part of it is the culture that surrounds it. Despite not being beloved critically, it became a really popular midnight movie. It's the kind of movie that you go and watch with your friends, and I am a stickler about staying quiet in the movie theater, but this is the kind of movie that you talk during. And I think the queer community saw that, and they saw this really queer movie, and they said, decided, let me make this mine. So theaters started adding some more interactive elements to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Actors would go up and play each character while the movie was running. They wouldn't speak, they would just mouth their lines, but they would just play the character. There were chants, like you're at a football game, but instead of a football game, you're in a small theater with a bunch of gay people. Like every time Janet, who's one of the main characters, comes on screen, you go, you slut, or anytime they say Janet, you go, Janet, you slut.
When Brad Major, his fiancée, Janet White.
Eventually, people started bringing props. Like every time Janet and Brad would walk into the house with a newspaper over their heads, people would bring newspapers and put them over their heads in the audience. There's also a point when the crowd can throw toilet paper, or during the time warp, people will get up and dance. It's very much an interactive experience. And Rocky Horror Show, to this day, is a very essential queer experience. I went to my first Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was a freshman in college, and it was a very fun experience. Obviously, there's always going to be people who are laughing at this whole thing, which Rocky Horror Picture Show is funny, but they're laughing at this whole queer idea of it. And that sucks, but they're kind of irrelevant. These performances have given opportunities for people to be very gender fluid and express themselves and their gender identity however they want to. Obviously, Janet is not always played by a cis straight white woman, and Brad is definitely not always played by a cis straight white man. So there's a lot of different people you will see in those roles, and it's definitely a kind of expression, whether you're putting on the costume as a sort of drag or you're using it as a means to express your real gender identity. It doesn't really matter. Rocky Horror Picture Show is for all queer people, and it is great. The cis straights, you might have seen it in Perks of Being a Wallflower. I don't know how many cis straights watched Perks of Being a Wallflower, but that might be your frame of reference. It's fun, it's camp, it's queer, and I wouldn't want to replace it, but adding on to it doesn't sound too bad. Lisa Frankenstein is probably the best movie I've watched this year, and if not the best, it's definitely my favorite. It came out in February of this year, and I presumably saw it in February of this year because that's basically the only time you could have seen it. My mom and I were bored, and she was visiting me, and we had to do something. And Lisa Frankenstein had tickets open, so we went and saw Lisa Frankenstein. I'm not exactly sure what we were expecting from it. Again, I had seen those Cole Sprouse ads, but other than that, I had no idea what was going on. And you might not know either, since it was so under the radar. I was happily surprised. So this is the synopsis, according to Google, of Lisa Frankenstein. A misunderstood teenager and a reanimated Victorian corpse embark on a murderous journey together to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. Much like Rocky Horror, I would add hijinks ensue. Definitely sexually explicit hijinks. Not necessarily explicitly queer hijinks. I haven't started my makeup. Okay, we're starting my makeup. I always say I'm gonna do my makeup like it's duh, and then I just forgot completely. Honestly, I might just not do any skin anything because you can already see that I'm breaking out and I don't want to irritate this any further. Plus, I have to wash all of this off so I can go to class. So I'm going simple. Right, with video. The aesthetics of Lisa Frankenstein are great. They're big and loud, big hair, bright lip, bright eyeshadow. The 80s is a great decade to choose from if you want something that's visually striking, so they made a good choice there. The performances are great. They have done the best thing they could possibly do with Cole Sprouse, which is not let him speak. There's something about his voice that just grates on me, so when I found out he just didn't talk during the movie, it made me very happy. Makeup's great, the costumes are great, I love it. It was so funny too. I wasn't expecting it to be so funny. Even the set design is great. I love how the whole movie looks. I love how the graveyard looks. I love how her house looks. Plus, little Rocky Horror Easter egg, her stepmom's name is Janet. You slut. You can keep that if you do a midnight viewing. I will just not be giving you a full summary of Lisa Frankenstein because I want you to go watch it. Watching that movie for the first time is a treat. It is absurd. It's camp. For the longest time, my mom thought I was making the word camp up. She didn't understand what it meant, and we walked out of that movie theater and I was like, you wanted to know what camp is? That was camp. I'm very passionate about this movie. I literally came home, immediately told my roommate, you have to watch Lisa Frankenstein. It was so good. And then I walk into my house a week later and who's watching Lisa Frankenstein? My roommate. So instead of giving you that summary, I think I'm just gonna make a list of the reasons why I think Lisa Frankenstein would be a perfect replacement or add-on for the iconic, legendary Rocky Horror Picture Show. First of all, it's queer and it's camp and it's absurd. Is the movie about a girl trying to get one guy and then falls in love with the other guy and it's all about like straight relationships? Yeah, it is. But is it still very queer coded? Uh-huh. There is something so... This point is hard to make because it's sort of like a if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't thing. Just watch the movie. Just watch the movie. But it is definitely camp. It's definitely camp. It's not trying to be very good. It's gory. It's explicit. Part of it is that I don't even think Lisa's a good person, which the movie knows too. They're not trying to make it out that we need to be sympathetic for her because she's great. That helps with the camp element. Like, we're watching this girl who's just doing the wrongest things at all time go and do the wrongest things, and it's perfect. When a movie can make murder comical, that's when you know it's great. I saw someone in a review call it a horror movie, and I would say it's as much of a horror movie as Megan is a horror movie. I love Megan too. I think it's great, but they're both kind of so absurd that it takes away from the scary. Another element it shares with Rocky Horror Picture Show, which makes it the perfect kind of movie for this setting, is that it is meant to be interactive. My showing of the movie was in one of those smaller theaters within a movie theater, so it was just me and my mom and maybe 3 other groups of people. And it was so clear that everyone there was watching the movie for the first time, because whenever anything happened, there were gasps, there were laughs, people were like talking, saying things. It was amazing. Again, I usually get irrationally angry when people talk in a movie theater, but this movie was just built for it. It felt like everyone in that movie was there together. Like, we were watching the movie together. We were having a blast. It's like you're watching with your friends. It's not even just that this movie was made to be watched with other people. It's also that it lends itself to props. Every time she kisses that stone grave, maybe people could bring like stones and kiss them, which sounds strange, but if you know Rocky Horror Picture Show, that's like the kind of weird thing that you do there. Or, and I'm only spoiling this one part, so if you don't want to hear it, skip 30 seconds ahead. When she takes an axe and chops someone's off. Imagine just the hilarity of people bringing some sort of phallic object and throwing it up in the air. Toilet paper who? Toilet paper who? You could be throwing things in the air that look like the thing that is being chopped off. Rest in peace, Freud. You would have loved Lisa Frankenstein. It also just has the makings of a cult classic. It literally lost money in the box office. It lost at least $4 million. So the fact that it was stopped after 4 weeks, it makes sense because it would have cost more than it was worth to keep that film in theaters. Obviously, that was unfortunate for me, who loved it, but I was one of the 3 people who did. I think there's also a really good cosplay potential, which sounds a little silly, but I've seen cosplays of this movie very recently, more than anything, which maybe I'm just not in with the cosplay community and I just don't know what I'm talking about, but the fact that it's delayed to now says something to me. Like, there's some sort of staying power. If the first season of Stranger Things came out in February and then people were dressing up as 11 for Halloween that same year, or even years after, that would make complete sense. Stranger Things was a cultural phenomenon. Everyone knew about it. Everyone, possibly to this day, knows that a buzz cut, a hospital gown, and Eggo waffles means 11 from Stranger Things. If I went outside in Lisa Frankenstein cosplay of any character, but even just Lisa Frankenstein, probably 99% of the population would not know who I was. Lisa Frankenstein was nowhere near as popular as Stranger Things was. So for me, it feels important that people are still cosplaying and dressing up as Lisa Frankenstein. She didn't get like 2 weeks of, wow, look how aesthetic and cool this movie looks, and then it's over. It is several months later, and we are still seeing Lisa Frankenstein costumes. And I guarantee there will be Lisa Frankenstein Halloween costumes. Maybe I should be Lisa Frankenstein for Halloween. That's not a bad idea. Also, this one's sort of random, but I think I've seen a lot of discourse where people are saying, oh, people are going to ask where you were when Chapel Roan got really popular, and something about Lisa Frankenstein just screams Chapel Roan to me. Maybe that's why it feels so queer, but the 80s aesthetics, the hair, the makeup, it's all very Chapel Roan. So I think at some point in time when people are nostalgic for early Chapel Roan, they might look at the aesthetics of this movie and think, that reminds me of that. Or maybe I'm just crazy and I'm the only person who thinks that. It seems possible, right? No? Yeah. Okay, guys, I fear it is time for the much dreaded red lip. Pray for me. Okay, I still hate a red lip on on me, but it is technically in the lines. Okay, I took some off. I don't know if it's better or worse. Okay, this video is not usually what I make, but I just needed to talk about Lisa Frankenstein. So if one day in the future your queer kids tell you they're gonna go see a production of Lisa Frankenstein at midnight, tell me so I can tell you I told you so. I really do believe this is true. I think some people might compare Lisa Frankenstein more to Heathers, you know, all the murdering in the 80s thing, but I think that is an accurate comparison. But I think Lisa Frankenstein has the interactive element of Rocky Horror in a way that I never saw with Heathers. I'm just putting this out into the world so someone who maybe owns one of those niche movie theaters can do a Rocky Horror Lisa Frankenstein double feature and it'll be great. If someone does that, or if you've ever seen someone do that, please tell me because that'd be sick. Did you like the video? Then like the video. Subscribe. I'm close to 100. I'm so excited. Comment. Tell me that you think I'm wrong or that you think I'm right. Tell me if you've seen the movie. If so, what part? I've been thinking about this movie for months and months and months. So I'm glad I got to talk about it with the internet. I will see you shortly, hopefully, with my Real Housewives video. It will be long, but very good. I have rewatched a whole season of The Housewives for you, and it was a time. Okay, guys, bye.